Reddit, what's your best? No time to explain, let's go story? Story 1. Me and my friend are heading to Sonic for lunch. Suddenly he screams, "Pull over!" pointing across the road and across 2 lanes of traffic. Why? No time to explain. Go! So I hit the gas and barely avoid getting creamed. Across the way I see what he noticed first, a man holding down a woman in the dirt near the ditch beside the road and striking her. We start to get out. He sees us, lets her go and gets in his car. A moment late, another car pulls up and some older women swarm over the struck woman as he begins to drive away. We hop in our car and give chase. I hand him my phone. He calls the cops. We end up leading the way on a car chase with officers slowly assembling en masse behind us. Finally, we chase him to a house and block the driveway with our car as he gets out and runs behind the house. Knowing we have no right to chase, we let the police take it from there. But we check the car. It had kids in it. The police interviewed us later, told us that the kids belonged to the woman, and if we hadn't followed the man, they might not have found the car. Felt like big heroes. Best part was on the way home we helped a fellow with a broken radiator, and in the middle of getting him taken care of, the police called us after they caught him, and I got to say this awesome line, "Bro, that was officer. They need us down at the station. Broken radiator guy was all. Who are you?" Edit. Due to the overwhelming popularity of my post, I present to you my partner in crime on this, Steven. Yes, he has a Spider-Man costume. Story 2. Got a phone call from my sister one evening, and when I picked up the phone, she was clearly running and out of breath. I could just make out her saying, "Open the front door," before the line went dead. So I ran to the front door, picking up the heaviest thing I could find along the way. It was a climbing helmet BTW. Wrenched the door open and moved out the way just in time to see her bolting into the house past me. I slammed the door and wait for her to catch her breath. There was a giant fucking pheasant chasing me all the way from Tesco. Her, "Don't worry, ma'am, I've got this." With that, I donned the climbing helmet and told her to call the police if I wasn't back in 5 minutes. Story 3. My archaeology crew and I were stuck in La Paz, Bolivia, because of civil unrest that cut the roads leading to our dig site. We had been hanging out in La Paz for 2 weeks, trying to stay as warm as possible and waiting for any opening in the demonstrations. The Bolivian army fired into a crowd, killing several demonstrators, and both sides call a truce for 24 hours. That morning, our professor ran into our rented apartment and yelled for us to grab all our gear. We have 5 minutes to leave. We had no idea what was going on. The prof took the next combi, and my poor Spanish skills meant I couldn't ask questions of my fellow passengers. We boarded one of the first combis out of La Paz and head out to the Altiplano. On the road, we passed huge roadblocks, burning tires, piles of broken glass, and various debris, with just enough room for a small car to make it through. The roadblocks resumed that night. We made it far enough to hike the remaining 12 hours to the site next day, and then we started digging. Story 4. Doing some bodywork on a Cessna 350 when my buddy comes running into the shop with his eyes nearly bugging out of his head. "Friend, goldfish. Come on, follow me." Me, "What is it?" "I'm busy." Friend, "Just come here," gesturing wildly for me to follow. Me, "I have to finish this work. Is it important?" Friend, losing patience in all of his excitement. "Just follow me. It's important." Me, "I'm not going unless you tell me what it is first." Friend, "Cake!" Turns out it was somebody's birthday at work and there was free cake in the break room. Story 5. Walking home from playing football in the park, and my dad, aggressively speeding down the road in his car, brakes hard next to me. He looks angry and my little brother is crying and he sternly says, "Get in." I roll with it, and he speeds around the park looking attentively out the window. My little brother points at a group of lads, maybe 16, 17 years old. One of them is running with my little brother's glasses. He's only about 10 years old. My dad jumps out the car, Rugby, tackling the lad to the floor. My dad is huge, and the lads look petrified. My dad absolutely bawls at them for about 5 minutes. After that, he gets back in the car, and then we go to McDonald's. Edit. Bawl. Verb. Shout or call out noisily and unrestrainedly. Just a little context for people who think the word ball has a single meaning. Edit 2. Replacing the letters B and T in football because I mixed them up. I would like to apologize to my fans for letting them down. Edit 3. Roll. Not roll. It's been a slow morning. Final edit. I'd like to point out for clarity, my brother was 10. The lads were around 16, 17. Story 6. I was in high school, and my friend came running up to me and said, "No time to explain, I need your shoes." I spent the rest of the day walking around the school in socks and some makeshift shoes made out of a cardboard box. I later found out that the reason why my friend needed my shoes was so that he could participate in his chem lab class and not fail, due to his not wearing shoes. Story 7. A few years back, my brother pulled up to my house with a paintball gun and told me to get in. He hands me the gun and says, "You'll know when to shoot." We go on a short drive to a corner where some kids began to egg his truck. I knew when to shoot. Story 8. Grab a tarantula, a drum set, and a mannequin and meet me at Bill's house. But where do I find those things? A drum set? Kikanan. Oh, here it goes. Story 9. I have an agreement with a friend of mine that if one of us calls the other and says, "Suit up," in a commanding voice, Then the other will come quickly and in a suit. It's good fun. Usually, it leads to a night of good, innocent fun. Story 10. When I was 8, my parents took me over to their friend's house for an early dinner party. They had a daughter my age who was also my friend. She was really into animals and nature, so she wanted me to go with her about a block down her street to investigate a nest she saw earlier in a tree. We go. She starts climbing while I'm on the ground watching. Then, about half a block away, this hippie-looking surfer dude with long blonde hair and wearing nothing but shorts walks out of this house and notices us. I notice him for about 2 seconds and then look back up in the tree at my friend. Next, I hear a loud whistle, and when I look back in the direction of the surfer dude, he has his shorts down around his ankles with his willy whacker out in all its glory. I yell, "Run!" My friend is clueless, but somehow she manages to jump out of the tree, and we run back to her house as fast as our pint-sized legs will carry us. Luckily, my dad and her dad were right inside, and when I yelled, "There's a naked man chasing us," they were outside almost immediately. They find the surfer dude standing right in front of their driveway. I remember my dad saying, "Hey man, are you pulling your pants down in front of children?" And the guy responding with something like, "You man," and then walking away. The amazing thing is that we called the cops, and they came over to file a report, but they recommended not pressing charges because the guy knew where we lived and might seek revenge. This was back in the mid-1970s. Story 11. My brother is 11 years older than me, and stayed with my dad when my rents divorced, so I never really got to live with him when we were young. When I was about 14, he barged into my room at 4 a.m. and told me to pack here for 4 days. Our flight leaves in 2 hours. Soon after, I was on a plane. Turns out, he had planned us a trip to Colorado to go snowboarding and told no one but my mom. 1 hour before he told me. Story 12. It was the middle of the night on a road trip with a friend. She's a city mouse. I'm country. I was driving, she was sleeping, and I started to get sleepy. So I pulled off the highway onto a barely paved road and followed it for a while until I found a wide shoulder to pull off. I parked and we got out so she could have a cigarette. There were loads of stars, and we leaned against the car having one of those hushed middle-of-the-night conversations. Then I heard rustling in the woods 8 feet from us. At first I ignored it, but then I realized there was a pattern. I'd hear it at the 10 position, then at 2, then back to 10. It was more than one thing making the rustling noise, and they were getting closer, and I realized something was hunting us. So I put on my power voice and told her, "Get in the car." Her eyes got wide and she hopped in really quick. I jumped in and we took off back to the highway. She turned to me and asked, "Was it an axe murderer or something?" I told her no. It was probably wolves. And she got mad at me for scaring her. She didn't see how wild animals stalking us could possibly be dangerous. Story 13. I was checking the battery under my hood and managed to splash battery acid in my eye. I had 3 friends in the car. I told the girl in the back seat to give me the jug of water that was next to her. Now, she just sat there and glared at me with a, "I'm not taking orders from you. Look, bitch. Just give me the jug." Story 14. I was at a house party over the summer that started going a bit south. So my friend and I decided to just get in the car and drive home. We got to the car and were waiting for the 3rd guy in our group when a very, very drunk guy came up with his red Solo cup of beer. We were friendly to him, asked him what he was drinking and all. He decided the best reaction to this was to throw the beer at me while I sat in the car. After this happened, I noticed a group of about 7 or 8 more drunk people ambling towards the car. They did not look happy. My friend decided the best response to this was to go to the back of his car, grab his shotgun and 2 shells. Oh, he stood next to his car with the drunk bastards, slowly approaching, yelled at them once, "Get away from my car," while loading the shells. They did not stop. He fired once into the air away from them, cocked the gun, and said again, "Get away from my car." About 1 to 3 left after that, so he fired once more and the rest scattered. He had just fired a gun at a house party twice. Oh, oh, oh. Our friend then came out of the house screaming, "No time to explain, let's go." We never went back to that house TLDR, nearly drunken brawl broken up by shotgun. Story 15. Not sure if this counts, but I was in high school and espied a hot girl waiting for the bus. Being me and knowing I would just awkward all over myself if I tried things the normal way, I got on my best panicked face, ran up to her, and said, "Quick, quick, there's no time. I need your phone number." She blurted it out. I actually kept it in my head until I could get it down on paper and called her that night. We've been together for 13 years. Story 16. Freshman year in college at a school in Boston. Sick as a dog. Newfound ROTC friend with similar tastes as myself comes running into my room and tells me he needs me. I tell him I'm sick and can't go anywhere. He refuses my denial and forces me to come with him. Flash forward 45 minutes in a car and we are arriving at Gillette Stadium. Turns out there is a Halo 3 tournament being held for Army recruitment purposes. He is very aware of my Halo skills due to the sleepless night we spent when Halo 3 first came out. Ended up placing second and along the way beating Jared Mayo. He was physically upset and said he wanted to kill me. Felt awesome to beat a professional football player at something. All of this occurred in the box seating of an empty stadium, which we have an amazing view of. So surreal. Story 17. Without getting into much details, a guy I know got kidnapped. One night, I answered a call on his boyfriend's cell phone while I was waiting on witnesses to call us. It was him. Got up, started running, and told his boyfriend to follow me, and that I had no time to explain right now. We had to go and save him. I filled him in on the way. We found him and got him back to safety. Story 18. A group of bigots named Homo Sex is Sin visit Georgia Tech about every year to tell everyone why gays will burn in, women engineers are witches, blah blah blah. When I saw there were in front of the student center, I ran back to my place to find my camera and stereo. My friend was passed out right next to both items, still hungover from the night previous. I shook him and said, "Put on the smallest boxers you own and follow me." This is what happened. Story 19. I was at a sporting event with some friends. Wow, it was 10 years ago. Now I feel old. The bleachers were metal benches on concrete and set up amphitheater style, going down a hill and all the concessions and bathrooms on the top of the hill behind us. It's about halftime and I'm thirsty. I also see that it's starting to cloud up. I tell my friends I'm gonna go grab a drink and be right back. I walk to the top of the stairs and I see the biggest, nastiest thundercloud I have ever seen, and it's about to bricks right on top of us. I haul down the stairs, grab the friend closest to the aisle and yell, "We gotta go!" It takes a second for it to register, but everyone grabs the important and then follows me up the stairs, across the food court and into the bathroom. Suddenly, the temperature drops by at least 10 degrees. The wind gusts. The last friend in almost lost her hat. Seconds later, we hear a huge clang on the tin roof of the bathroom, and then another, and another. Then out the door, we see golf ball to orange-sized hail everywhere. TLDR. I saved my friends from being caught in bleachers in a nasty hailstorm. Story 20. Went to a bar, WWR some friends and my parents in my hometown for my 21st birthday. Turns into a good 6 hours of drinking. Went to the bathroom and while closing the lid after finishing, the entire bottom of the bowl shatters. I was legally drunk for my first time in said bar and proceed to urge very loudly that we needed to leave. No, I don't think you understand. I destroyed a toilet, let's go. Story 21. So I had a job driving a taxi. Night shift. I'm waiting in the cab lineup for my next fare when a native Indian stumbles up to my taxi, asks me if I want to buy some beer. No thanks, pal. You sure? I'll sell you a case for $15. Keep in mind I'm in Canada, and a case will normally cost around $40. I say sure, and he hops in and tells me to drive around the corner to the golf course. I'm skeptical, but I go for it. We arrive, and he runs into some bushes and comes out with a 24-pack of beer. I laugh, pay him, and ask if there's more. Yeah, if you buy 10, I'll sell them to you for $10 bucks each. I gave him $190 more. He runs towards the bushes, looks back at me and yells, "Well, you gonna come help me with them or what?" I follow him to the bushes. There is a skid full of cases of beer. We take 19 more and load them into the back of my taxi van. I get the nice gentleman's phone number for next time and we say our goodbyes. Fast forward 15 minutes. I've driven home. It's 3 a.m. I was living in a house in a row of townhomes. Neighbors surely hear me pull up, open and slam my door. I run in, wake up my roommate and yell, "No time to explain, let's go." He rushes downstairs, puts on shoes and follows me back to the cab. I open the rear doors and his jaw drops. "Where did you find this?" "No time to explain," I respond. So here we are, my half-naked friend and I running 20 cases of beer from the street to my house at 3 a.m. I am amazed that no neighbors had awoken and looked out their windows and called the phone number on the van. When we finished and I had time to explain, my roommate gave me $200 and we went and got another 20 cases, this time from a skid hidden behind some trees at a park on a local lake. Bloody star. Bought 20 cases of beer from an Indian. Woke up roommate at 3 a.m. to help rush it into our house. We built a wall between our kitchen and living room with cases of said beer. Story 22. I was at the train station next to my school when these black guys showed up and challenged one another to a rap battle. I sprinted to my friend's house about 1 to 4 miles away to get him and his friend. We're 2 white nerds and an Asian but make the dopest rap team. We got back, stepped into the middle of the battle and schooled them all. Then we got jumped, but it was worth it. Story 23. Camping at a friend's house with my wife. He had a glorious stretch of land and we had a tent, a nice little campfire, and had just finished dinner with leftovers sitting on the grill. We hear Coyote howls about a mile off and think with the smell of food in the air, maybe we should pack up and head back to his house for the night. He'd brought his antique military Jeep that had no suspension to carry the gear, and in case we needed emergency transportation back to the house. In the middle of packing, he screams, "Get in the car, now!" I hop in the passenger seat the same time he gets in the driver's side. The Jeep starts moving as I swing out and pick up my wife with one arm and slap her down on my lap. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention she's blind. Driving down an extremely bumpy dirt road with no suspension at 30 miles an hour. All that I could think of was the scene in Jurassic Park where the dude in the back is saying, "Must go! Faster!" The coyotes were chasing us. We rolled up to the house. I guess they didn't like the lights or the smell of civilization and left. The next morning, they had gone through the entire camp and paw prints were everywhere. Turns out my friend had seen a pack of shiny eyes charging us the previous night. We were lucky. Story 24. Phone rings on Friday at 8 a.m. after a tough 4-day week of school. "Dude, pack for the weekend. We're picking you up in 10 minutes. I instantly, though, they were trolling me, but decided to pack a light bag with the essentials anyway. To my surprise, my buds actually show up all pumped up, so I invited them to come in and smoke a bowl. Turns out they were not trolling, and we went on a road trip to Las Vegas. Fucking A. Story 25. I own a skate shop, and it was also a popular hangout for skater kids. I was off one day, and I get a call from an ecstatic skate kid that sounded in panic saying, "Get to the shop now." Click. I rush down there. 2 minutes later, Anthony Kiedis walks into the shop. One of the kids had run into him in town and convinced him to come into the shop. All the skater kids are in my shop behind the counter with my employee pretending to work on things, put skateboards together, etc. It was hilarious to see them try to act naturally, and we all got to have a good conversation with Anthony Kiedis about skating, paddleboarding, and kiteboarding, and he signed a girl skate deck for our wall of fame that I still have. He's been back every year since then and is a regular customer. This past summer, I delivered paddleboards out to his vacation home. Story 26. When I was about 13, my buddy and I rode our bikes to the local Kmart to be bored obnoxious teenagers, tossed some Nerf footballs over the aisles, ran around, mocked things. Then I thought it would be funny to spray my buddy with the perfume sample. He didn't think it was funny at all and started chasing me. I ran and hid, and the hunt was on. Using his finest ninja skills, he snuck around until he saw me, crouched down in the hardware aisle. He crept up behind me, put his right next to my head, and let rip. He turned around to gloat and it wasn't me, just some poor-looking at hammer. The next thing I know, he runs by me. "We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go." Story 27. Hurricane Charlie. Was going to do a normal ride-out-the-storm situation and play video games and eat junk food all weekend while it rained outside. I got a call from a buddy who'd said, "The hurricane just turned 90 degrees and made landfall in Sanibel, like 20-25 miles away." I rushed into my roommate's room and said, "Grab 2 days worth of clothes. We're getting the out of here." When we came back to the house, it had been destroyed. The roof leaked and held water in the ceiling until it completely caved in, completely destroying everything we had in there. Story 28. Best I've got is I was sitting in my room playing Halo, I think it was, and my dad randomly bursts into my room and just says, "Grab your knife and meet me in the backyard," and he ran back downstairs. Turns out our dog wound up cornering a possum in our yard, and the possum was about to attack the dog. We managed to eventually pull the dog away before the possum fought back, so it was able to run away. Story 29. My friend and I were sitting at a bar we frequent, and where we have good standing. This bar is one of the skeezy ones, and at this point, there were over 150 people in this part of the bar. We were wasted as it was about 2 a.m., and had just gotten another drink. At this time, I'm talking to some people next to me, when my friend grabs my arm and simply says, "We should go, now." We had, not 3 minutes prior, just gotten our drinks, and I was confused. "Why are we leaving?" "We just got our drinks," I said. "I pissed on the bar, we have to go." "Sure is, look at the floor, and there is a puddle of..." We promptly exited. TLDR. My friend covertly pissed on a bar, and we beat a hasty retreat. Story 30. At a work convention for my English school in Bangkok, and it's the evening. We are at a resort with the entire staff of all 5 centers, the CEO, etc., and it's open bar. Everyone is wasted. It's 2 a.m., and my friend comes up in a car driven by a random dude I later find out is in a band staying at the same place. She says, "Get in the car, I'll fill you in." So I did. Turns out our other friend had split his toe in a pool and needed to to the hospital. The guy in the band offered to drive. We drive past one other friend who is soaking wet with no shoes and a jug of beer, so we do the same and ask him to get in, and he does. That hospital had no idea what to do with the 4 drunk foreigners. Some wet, some with drinks, and one with a split toe who came in a car with a tie rocker who couldn't really speak English. Best work convention ever. Story 31. I work security and I get a call in my office from the operator saying, "Some kids just stole some coffee dispensers, about $90 a unit, from the lobby and flipped us off as they left." I turned to another officer and just said, "Come on, We gotta go. And we bolted to the lobby and then out to the parking lot. They had gotten into a car and we got in front of them and stopped them. It was like 4 16-year-old kids or something. We made them talk to the cops and wasted their time and got the coffee pots back. If I had explained first, we probably wouldn't have got the kids. Story 32. I was on a sales trip with 2 other dudes and we went out drinking. Anyway, one guy had had enough around 11th year and went back to his room. Me and the other moron continued drinking, which culminates in us getting kicked out of a wine bar at 2 a.m., so we head back to our hotel. On the way down our hallway, my coworker decides to knock on our other guy's door, and with him about leaving so early. When our other coworker opened his door, he was super pissed but really drunk. Coworker shoots past him and into the room, at which point they start arguing, so I leave and go to my room. At 5 a.m., my phone starts blowing up, but I ignore it. And then the phone in my room starts ringing, so I grab it. Really drunk coworker from the night before is in a panic and tells me to pack and meet him in the lobby, despite the fact that we were supposed to stay another 3 nights. I ask why, and he says, "No time to explain, just meet me in the lobby now." I pack and head down. Once in the lobby, he tells me that he apparently passed out in our other guy's bed, and that dude got pissed and called some hookers and left the door cracked for them and then switched hotels. So really drunk guy wakes up to 2 black hookers who want to party. He has no clue what's going on and tries to explain that he didn't call them. Well, now the ladies just want to be paid for showing up. Really drunk guy refuses, so the ladies leave to go get their pimp so he can settle the matter. Drunk guy freaks out, goes to his room, and minutes later he can hear the pimp banging on the door to the room he had been in. Freaking out even further, he packs and then calls me when he thinks the coast is clear. After the valet brings the car around and we get in, we see the 2 hookers pointing us out to their boss, as they had just been waiting outside to kneecap someone. We drive off in a hurry and check into another hotel. The end. TLDR coworker pissed off a pimp and we had to leave a hotel pronto. Story 33. Mine was when I was a freshman in high school. I was at this under 18 club, don't judge me, with a couple of girls just kind of hanging out. I was still new to women, so I was fairly oblivious to the fact that they both liked me. At one point in the night, Candace suddenly grabs me and says, "Let's go." I'm a good friend, so I go along with her, thinking we're about to see something cool. She leads me outside, all the while I'm asking her where we're going. Every time she simply replies, "Shortcut." Eventually, she leads me to an alleyway and stops. I look around, wondering what the heck we were doing there. I mean, we went all the way around the building, so she has a pretty tenuous grasp on the word shortcut. As I'm about to ask her what the deal is, she takes a hold of me and starts kissing me. Cool, I thought. A girl likes me. After a few minutes of this, we go back into the club and don't speak of it again. That was also the last night we really spoke, for about 3 years. I always thought it was because I was too shy to ask her out. That may have been the case, but as I learned when she started dating a friend of mine, it was also because I was a pretty bad kisser. I started dating someone long-term after that though, so I did get better. Yatsdar. Suddenly, makeouts. Story 34. I witnessed this one. I was visiting my brother in Phoenix and we decided to get some dinner. He suggested we walk up and down Mill Ave to decide where to eat. We finally settled on Silver Mine Subs. As we were walking in, I noticed this college-age guy wearing a heavy sweater. A little strange because it was not cold at all. Once inside, my brother and I ordered a couple subs, and suddenly in the middle of our order, the guy at the counter yells out to the other employee there, "Motherfucker, cover me. That guy just stole some chips," and leaps over the counter, sprinting full tilt after the guy, who had also raided the tips bowl which was near the chips. My brother and I were just standing there with huge grins on our faces, fucking overjoyed that we finally witnessed such an awesome spectacle. It ended up that the employee did catch up to him and he got the chips and the money back. Story 35. I know this will probably get buried, but I haven't ever had the opportunity to tell this story in years. When I was about 11 or 12, my dad took my stepbrother and me to my uncle's comic book shop to buy some new X-Men cards that he had just gotten in. My uncle usually stays open until sundown, or 7, but this night he stayed open until 8 or because of the new release. When we get to the store, I hop out of the van first and run to the front door at the exact same time this young black kid in a hoodie is coming out. We do that little shuffle dance where you don't know which way the other person is going. He took off to the left, I went right. I looked for my uncle, calling his name. "Hey, Mike, Mike?" I didn't see him. The kid I ran into turned around and said, "Oh, Mike's in the back." So, my brother and I ran to the back storage room to look for him, excited to buy our new cards, and my dad meandered around the front. A few seconds later, I hear my father yelling, "Get out here, now, get in the fucking car," while motioning for us to hurry up. Now my dad never cursed. He even slapped my leg once when I said, "one time in his presence." When finally get into the car, wondering what had happened, all he could say was, "Mike's hurt, he's been shot." As it happened, this 18-year-old kid that I shuffled with had brought a gun with him into the store, not necessarily with the intent to rob and murder him, as his manslaughter charge dictates, but saw the opportunity when he was closing up. He robbed him, told him to turn around and unplug the phone from the wall and put a round in the back of his head. After he left the store, he took off down the street, barefoot for some reason, and threw his gun into a nearby creek. By the time the police caught him, he had dropped almost all the cash he had taken and carried only a $20 bill. All in all, he murdered my uncle for less than $200. I was brought into the nearby police station, put in this colorful room with toys and teddy bears, and gave a physical description of the guy. With my and my father's statements, the kid got 10 years for manslaughter. Admittedly, my father still hasn't recovered. Story 36. I'll keep this army story brief. My platoon was out on a bridge recon in support of a larger route recon operation. We had been sent to a simple beam bridge on a road that came down from the mountains and intersected with the main route. We parked our small convoy out of sight about 400 meters away from the bridge. Our LT, between being on the radio with hire, quickly tasked the platoon sergeant with establishing 360-degree protection via a perimeter and to take charge of the bridge recon report. My squad was ordered to aid in the report. Our other 3 squads were sent out about 400 meters, spread in all directions to establish the perimeter, with a focus on the far side of the bridge's security. Fire Team Bravo began measurements on the deck, while my fire team began evaluating the width of the abutments. About 5 minutes in, the ELT came sprinting towards us yelling, "Stop! Stop what you're doing! Follow me! Fucking hurry!" We did just that, following him back to our concealed convoy of vehicles. He led us straight to one of the 2 5T trucks. Our RTO was in the back already. When we got to it, he jumped in the back as well and they started handing boxes of C4 to us. The platoon jeet was coming up with Fire Team Bravo as the RTO handed me a large coil of deticord. LT started to explain that we just got a frago. Our mission is now Hasty bridge demolition, detonation on hire's command. A few of our guys were sent to update the squad leaders on the perimeter with the situation and to make sure everyone was well concealed from the road and had cover from the bridge. My team ran back to the bridge with our demo supplies, generally a no-no, but we didn't have any blasting caps, they're pretty unstable. Demo knots for the win. We eyeballed the demo calculations for the abutments, multiplied by about 5, then tamped our C4 as best as we could on the quick. Sapper knotted onto a double ring main, then led both with shock tube into our MDI, then M81 initiators. The platoon SGT went to go check on the perimeter and took his battle buddy. I just laid concealed next to the detonators behind some rocks for cover with my battle buddy. We were shortly joined by the LT and RTO. We had been hunkered down for what felt like hours. I had started rummaging through my cargo pockets for some MR goodies when the ELT got hailed by hire. Prepare to detonate within the next 5 minutes. My stomach nodded. A mounted enemy patrol will be crossing your AO. Make sure you time your detonation accordingly. My jaw dropped. This is some fucking John Wayne, I exclaimed excitedly, trying to mask my nerves. Within a few minutes, we started hearing the low hum of vehicles approaching from the direction of the mountains. The sound steadily grew louder as they came into view. It was a small convoy, ragtag cars and a pickup filled with men in the back, all traveling tight. This was our enemy patrol. When the first vehicle began to cross the bridge, my battle buddy and I picked up an initiator each. We toasted. To us? To us! We did all but clink the detonators together ceremoniously. LT rolled his eyes. About 5 seconds later, he shouted, "Now!" There was a slight delay. It seemed longer than it should be. Boom. A thick cloud of smoke and flying chunks of metal and concrete came raining down. We assaulted through the objective with our close side perimeter security. Everything went to plan. After conducting our SOP actions on the objective, we mounted up and headed back to our company's location to further assist with the route recon. I don't think I've ever seen our CO prouder than when we met up with him. He had a "eating my kid just banged the prom queen" grin on his face. TLDR. Order changed mid-mission. Hastily blew up a bridge with bad guys on it.